His name, Martin Luther, the famous quote from Martin Luther, who said that faith without works is dead. That's a quote from James 2. And you are justified by faith alone. These two things contradict each other plainly and cannot be reconciled. And if anybody can prove me wrong, then I will give him my cloak. Was that the quote? I'll give him my cloak and I'll let him call me a fool. It's a famous quote from Martin Luther, to my understanding. So, point being is that, yes, there are these two concepts in the Bible that it seems that the Pauline doctrine seems to be pushing this concept of, not always, sometimes Paul's a little bit confusing, but anyway, and even that's even mentioned in the gospel, I think Peter mentions that. But anyway, Paul does push this idea that it's faith without works, that faith alone justifies. But James says, even the devil believes in God. So that doesn't mean that his faith is good. And he says that Abraham, just because of his faith, no, because of his actions. And faith without works is dead. And so personally, I'm on Team James when it comes to this issue, because James was the brother of Jesus and he held it down in Jerusalem with all of the disciples after the time of Jesus. So that guy seems like he's number one, whereas Paul, he said he had a vision, but he never actually met Jesus, and then he was actually corrected by James, and he actually lost disciples to the group from James. He said Barnabas was corrupted because of the group from James, as mentioned, I believe, in Acts, if you guys can correct me there. So anyway, all to say that these two seem to have hit heads, bumped into each other with regards to this issue. Personally, I think I'm definitely on Team James on that one. You have to be congruent internally and externally. You're one human being, and therefore you have to have faith internally and action externally. And that's a biblical concept, and in Islam, thank God as well. So, but this is a debate. I'm not going to just quote the Quran at you. I'm going to say that my religion and your book. Thank you. Kalimatullah, so in the Quran, the word of God is kun fayakun, be and it is. Whenever he does a miracle, he just says a word to be and it is. So whether it be any miracle that he creates, that doesn't make that thing to be eternal. And by the way, even when it says that, in chapter 40, verse 6, it mentions, if you want to take a look at the Quran, it says, because of a kalimatullah, because of a word of God, therefore they were punished, certain nations were punished at a certain time. So a kalima, the word of God, can even be a decree of God. So it can be a miracle, it can be a decree, and therefore we don't see that in any way as contradictory or that this makes him divine. What was the first question? Tawheed, yes, thank you so much. So, wahada yuwahidu, great question. The verb wahada, exactly, that's perfect. I totally understand the question. The verb wahada yuwahidu means to unite. So the question is, God is already united. What am I uniting for? What do I need? I don't take a bunch of parts and stick them together to make a God. No, God is one whether you acknowledge it or not. The same way that 2 + 2 is 4 is true whether you acknowledge it or not. You could deny it, it doesn't make a difference. Certain things are just true, universally, they're always true. So why are we doing Tawheed particularly if Allah is already Al-Wahid Al-Qahar, or the one in the all-powerful? The reason is because we have a tendency as human beings to make rivals in our lives and in our hearts with God. And so it's constantly the believer's job to say everything I do, when I wake up this morning, when I eat food, when I spend time with my family, I need to make sure that all of my intention in everything that I'm doing is ultimately centered around the oneness of God in my life. That there has to be a central theme, and that theme has to be all about one God. So that means I actively have to live Tawheed. I have to be unifying my life, always directed towards God constantly.